Myself Mukul Gupta, and today we are gathered here to discuss on the topic of transformer. So let us start this topic. So this is the content of our this subject. First, we are going to discuss about the basic principle of transformer. In that we will study about its construction, its various parts, and then later we will start with its ideal and practical transformer, that we will do a comparison. After that we will see how its EMF equation is derived. Based on that we will see its equivalent circuit, then followed by the losses in transformer, then its regulation as well as its efficiency of transformer. So before starting to this topic, we should understand where does this transformer lies in an electrical machine. So as you know, electrical machines, it is basically an electromechanical energy conversion device. That means it is a device with which you can convert electrical energy into mechanical energy or mechanical energy into an electrical energy. So this is a broad classification of an electrical machine. So basically we have a static machine and then dynamic machine. So this classification is based upon the parts of the machine, whether it is in static motion or whether it is in rotating motion. Static motion means there will be no rotating parts. It's a complete static machine. Further, under this static machine, we have a transformer unit, and then in dynamic machine, we have a generator as well as a motor. Fine. So this is a broad classification of transformer. Now here you can see that there is another way of classifying the machine. The first way of classifying the machine is based upon the static and the rotating parts. Another way of classifying is based on the type of machine, whether it is an alternating machine, whether it is a DC machine. So on the basis of DC machine, the dynamic machine, this is the further classification of this part. Fine. This is the further classification of this dynamic part. Only one part we have, that is a static, which transformer comes under this part. Okay. Here in this we have further a generator or as a motor. Also in AC machine it is further classified as a, this is wrong. Okay. Induction, synchronous and a fractional kilowatt machine. So what we have seen, this is a broad classification. Fine. Okay, so based on this classification, as I told you, we have a DC machine which can work as a motor as well as a generator. So that depends, like what is the nature of your input as well as what is the nature of your output. Similarly, we have a generator, like in generator you know your input will be a mechanical energy and at the output you will be getting electrical energy. Similarly, we have an AC machine where we have a synchronous, asynchronous machine. And then similarly again they are classified as motors and generators. So in today's lecture I am basically focusing on the static machine. That is nothing but it is a transformer. So quite possible you might be knowing the definition of a transformer, which is a static machine that simply converts one energy from one part to another energy, to another circuit. That means it can work as an isolation also. So this is the application of a transformer which is used as an isolating circuit. So let me tell you the basic construction, basic structure of a transformer. So as you can see in this figure, this is the core of a transformer. Okay, so this is a laminated core where this side, where this winding is wound, this is called as the primary side of the transformer, and this side where another winding, secondary winding is wound, this part is called as the secondary part of the transformer or the secondary side of the transformer. So generally we apply the input voltage in this primary side and we used to take the connect the load at its secondary side. So there are some terminologies which is associated to this figure, like VP. So generally VP is the primary voltage. The voltage between these two terminals, it is termed as the primary voltage. Fine. Then another is VS. So VS is the voltage which appears across the secondary terminal. This voltage is termed as the secondary voltage of the transformer where we used to connect the load. Then NP. NP is actually the total number of turns. Okay, so as I told you, this is the primary side. So the number of turns which is associated with this winding, that is termed by, that is denoted by NP. So NP is the number of turns on the primary side. Similarly, NS is the number of turns on the secondary side. Fine. So the last term is the phi. What is phi? Phi is actually the flux which is going to generate in this core when you apply a supply to this primary side. Okay, so later I will discuss in the detail. Let us move to another slide. Okay, so here again I have shown a different parts in it with a symbolic notation like this. In the previous slide I have also the same thing I have told you. This is like VP, NP, NS, VP, and then this is another way of showing the transformer. Every time you cannot draw the same figure. It is not easy to show this construction in your circuit. So this is the symbolic notation of transformer. In both ways you can show in your circuit. So this two line, it represents the magnetic coupling between the primary and the secondary winding. Fine. Okay, so let us discuss about the principle using this figure only. So what is going to happen actually, when you apply a single phase AC voltage, when you give a single phase AC voltage on this primary side of the transformer, then definitely there will be a current which is going to circulate in this winding. And you know that whenever there is a current, there will be a flux. So because of this primary side current, a flux will start circulating in this core. Since this core area is confined, so this flux, it will circulate through this core in this fashion. Fine. Now what will happen, since this flux is going to traverse through this side of the core as well, so it is going to interact with the coil. Sorry. Just wait. This one. Gone. Yeah. Okay. So I was telling that when the primary is connected to a single phase supply, so what is going to happen? It will create its own flux. Okay. Now this flux is going to relate with the secondary side of the transformer. So when it connects to the secondary side of the transformer, so there will be an interaction between the coil, isn't it? So because of that, an EMF will get induced in the secondary side. And same thing is going to happen on the primary side as well. So as per the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, what is going to happen? The EMF which is induced on the primary side, that is termed as the self-induced EMF. And the EMF which is going to happen on the secondary side, that is termed as the mutually induced EMF. Okay. So let me again explain you with this diagram. Okay. So when you apply the voltage here, okay, and flux will start circulating in this core, isn't it? Because of the current which is going to circulate through this part of the winding. Okay. And this flux is going to relate with this side of the winding. Fine. Now due to the interaction of this flux with the winding, there will be an EMF which is going to induce across this winding, and this is denoted by E2, and this is as per the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. See, whenever there is an interaction between a flux and a winding, there will be an EMF which is going to induce in the winding. Now if the EMF is induced due to its own current, then that EMF is termed as self-induced EMF. So the EMF which is going to appear across this winding, that is denoted by E1, and E1 is termed as the self-induced EMF, whereas this E2 is termed as the mutually induced EMF. The reason is this EMF is induced because of the current in the primary side. So that's why it is called as the mutually induced EMF. Fine. Now if this part of the circuit is closed, suppose it is closed, you have connected a load across these two windings, then what is going to happen? Definitely the circuit is closed, so there will be a current that will exist in the load side. So this is how this transformer will work. So during its definition I have mentioned that this transformer is used as an isolating circuit also. Okay. So isolating circuit means this part is your low power circuit and this part is your high power circuit. So this core is like a mediator and it is isolating both the circuits. Fine. So let us move further. Same thing I have mentioned. Okay. Now let us focus on the difference between an ideal and the practical transformer. So as you know that there is nothing like ideal. Okay. So when you say that you have an ideal transformer, then there are certain parameters, on that basis we can see the difference, where we can see do the comparison. So likewise we have, first one is the efficiency. First one is the efficiency. So suppose you have an ideal transformer. So what does it mean? It means that it has 100% efficiency. 100% efficiency means there will be no losses inside the machine, inside the transformer. Okay? Likewise in the practical transformer, definitely practical transformer, there will be certain losses, there will be some resistance, there will be some components through which there will be the losses in the machine. So that is called as the practical transformer, where the efficiency is less than 100%. Fine. Now in case of an ideal transformer, since there will be no losses, that's why we are telling that it has a 100% efficiency. But whereas in practical transformer, definitely there will be certain losses. Because of that, it is termed as like it has efficiency below 100%. Then it has purely inductive material. See, for the flux to generate, there should be some inductance. Without inductive coil, flux is not going to generate, isn't it? So this transformer will have pure inductance. So this transformer will have pure inductance. Pure inductance means the resistance is zero. Pure resistance means the resistance is zero inside the windings. Likewise in practical, there will be nothing like pure resistance, there will be some resistance. Okay, it will not be a pure inductance, there will be some resistance. So in the ideal transformer, there will be no losses. So later we will see what are the losses, types of losses which is going to occur in the transformer. But here you just understand that there will be no losses, like I square R losses will not be there. This is called as the copper losses because of the resistance finding, and as I have mentioned that R is 0, so this will lead to a 0 losses. Then there will be no iron losses. I square R losses is your ohmic losses. Then no leakage drop. Leakage drop means the flux which is going to generate by the primary winding, the whole amount of flux is going to link with the secondary side. We are not assuming that any flux is escaping from the core. Okay. So it is in the ideal condition and it is not used in the practical condition. So it is just an idealistic characteristic, or you can say it is an idealistic property of a transformer, which generally not happen in real world. Whereas in practical transformer, you have an ohmic resistance, you have a leakage drop, and practical conditions, yes, definitely there will be some practical conditions which exist in the transformer. Fine. So this is a brief idea about the difference between the ideal and the practical transformer. Now further, coming to the next topic, that is the EMF equation of a transformer. So what we have discussed the principle, like how EMF is going to generate. Other than that, we have seen that what is the difference between the ideal and the practical transformer. Now this is the next topic, in that we are going to discuss about the EMF equation of a transformer. So in the previous slide, what we have seen, when you apply the AC voltage, so because of that AC voltage, the flux will be alternating, your supply is alternating, so your flux is also going to be alternate. So let us suppose that this is the waveform of an alternating flux. Fine. Now see what will happen. All these parameters I have already explained. In the previous slide I have told you, let Na is the number of turns on the primary side, Nb is the number of turns on the secondary side, phi m is the maximum flux in the core. This point, this represents the maximum flux. Okay. F is the frequency of the alternating wave, which we will consider in hertz. Now let us see how this EMF equation is derived. So you can see that at this particular point, what is the frequency? You know time period. This duration is termed as one time period. From this point to this point. From this point to this point, this duration is termed as the time period. Okay, after this t seconds, this cycle is going to repeat itself. Okay, so this is the t second, this is the time period. So when you take the reciprocal, it will become frequency. Fine. So at this point is t by 2 and this is t by 4. Okay, so when you take at this particular point, your frequency, your flux is maximum. So similarly, the total flux at this particular point will become phi max 1 by 4 times of F. This is the maximum or the average change of the flux density at this particular point. Okay, so when you solve this one, you will get this 4 will go and the numerator you will get this expression. Now you know that as per the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, the rate of change of flux, induced EMF is directly proportional to rate of change of flux. So when you equate this, you will get the average electromotive force induced per turn. It is for a single turn. Okay. Now if I multiply this with number of turns, then I will be getting the total induced EMF on the primary side. Fine. Okay. So from the previous discussion, what we have seen, your flux is going to vary sinusoidally, and at half quarter of this time period, you will get the maximum flux. So from there, what we have found that since the form factor for an alternating wave is 1.11, so if you convert it from maximum to RMS, you will get this value. Fine. So this is the equation. This is the equation of induced EMF on the primary side. Okay. So this is the value for N1 number of turns. Whatever it is, let's say N1 or NA. Okay. Here we have assumed NA. In the previous one we have assumed N1. So both are the same thing. Similarly, you can derive the same equation for the secondary side of the transformer. So the induced EMF or the magnitude of EMF which is induced on the secondary side, that is again given by 4.44 F NB Bm A. This is in terms of the flux. Fine. As you know that phi is equal to BA. Phi is equal to BA. So this maximum value, it is replaced by Bm A. That's it. Okay. So what we have discussed about the EMF equation of a transformer. Now what is going to happen on the no load condition, that we will see. So in the previous slide we have seen that when you have an ideal transformer, like whatever voltage you are going to apply, that is V1, induced EMF is E1, and the voltage which is going to appear on the secondary side is E2. Okay. So when it is an ideal case, then that V1 will equal to this one. This V1 will equal to here, this VA will equal to E1, like it is V1 is equal to E1, it is the same case, and same is the case with the on the secondary side, like V2 will be equal to E2. Okay. Now let us discuss about the transformation ratio. So as you have seen that Na and Nb, these are the number of turns, and we have derived the EMF equation, and in that EMF equation what we have seen that E is directly proportional to the number of turns. So based on this concept I can write EA upon EB is equal to Na upon Nb. Primary number of turns to secondary number of turns. But transformation, it is always explained in terms of the secondary to primary turns, that is K. Okay, so on that basis, just take the reciprocal of these equations, you will get the secondary voltage to primary voltage is equal to Nb upon Na, and K is the transformation ratio. So from this transformation ratio, the value of this transformation ratio will decide whether it is a step up transformer or a step down transformer. Okay, so when its value is more, like the number of turns is more, see here both are directly proportional. If number of turns are more, that means the EMF which is going to induce, that will increase, because both are directly proportional. So if E2 is greater than E1 or EB is greater than EA, that means you have a step up transformer. So based upon this value, or I can say based upon this value, we can decide that whether you have a step up transformer or a step down transformer. Fine. And if you write the equation, since it is a transformer, ideal transformer, and we have seen that the power input is equal to power output, and you know that power output or power equation is given by V into I. So the input power will become VA into IA, and the output power will become VB into IB. So from this expression you can derive the another relation in terms of the current, and there you can see that the currents are in the inverse ratio of the voltage transformation ratio, and these are the very important relations while solving the numericals based on transformer. Fine. Now let us discuss the phasor diagram of a transformer. So there are basically two separate conditions. So we will first consider that when the transformer is on without load, like transformer on no load, and then slowly we will move to the practical transformer. By loading the transformer, we will consider like how the transformer will work when it is loaded with on the secondary side. Okay, so we will consider here two conditions, that is when the transformer is on no load. Just a minute. Yes. So here first we will discuss the case when the transformer is on no load. So no load means your secondary is kept open. Sorry. So as you can see that no load is connected and your secondary is open. So definitely on this secondary side there will be no current. There will be no current on the secondary side. Now see what is going to happen. You are going to apply a voltage of V1 on the primary side, and since this circuit is closed, so due to this voltage there will be a current on this winding. Now this winding which is the primary winding, so an EMF which is going to appear as per the principle, that is E1, and this E1 is called as the self-induced EMF. Now this I0, here this I0 is termed as the no load current. Why no load current? Because there is no load on the secondary, one thing, and secondary thing is this current is required to generate the required magnetism so that this flux will create in the magnetic core. See, this core is not magnetized. Okay, so to link the current, to link this flux, this coil with this flux, there should be a good amount of magnetism in the core. So to generate that percentage or that magnitude of core, there should be some minimum current which is required from this primary side. So this primary coil will take that minimum load current to generate the necessary magnetism, to generate the necessary flux in the core, and that's why this is represented by I0. Okay, Now this is the phasor diagram when the transformer is on no load. So we are considering the ideal case. So this is the yes. So this vector, this represents your I1 current. Sorry. So this represents your I1 current. So you know that whenever there is a current, there will be a flux. So flux will also shown in the same line. So this vector represents the current and flux. So as I told you, the current which is required initially for generating this, for creating the magnetism in the circuit, that is represented by Im. Okay. This current is Im, magnetizing current. Okay. Now since we have a pure winding, because it is an ideal condition, so the voltage will lead the current. So the input voltage is V1 and that is leading by 90 degree. So this is the condition of your primary side. On the secondary side, what is going to happen? Since the no load is connected, so there will be appearance of your induced voltage, that is E2. So that voltage will always oppose the cause of producing it. This is as per the Lenz's law. So this E2 will oppose the V1 sorry, and as well as this will lag the flux by 90 degree because your windings are pure inductive. Okay. So because of that it will lag, and this is exactly opposite to this V1. Okay. So this is how you will get the, when the transformer on no load, you will get the phasor diagram. What is important here? The important part of this phasor diagram is the current which is initially circulate on the primary side, it is just for creating the magnetism, that is Im. Now let us consider the second case when the transformer is on load. So as you can see that we have connected a load on the secondary side. So what will happen? Our secondary circuit is closed. So when your secondary circuit is closed, so definitely there will be some current which is flowing on this part of the circuit. Fine. Now see, this is V1 which is the supply voltage. Yes, this is your single phase AC supply voltage. Because of that, just don't concentrate on this part of this current. Okay, just look at here. So due to this voltage, an EMF will induced, that is E1, and this flux is going to trace through this core. So again there will be another EMF which is going to induce, that is E2, this E2. Now since we have connected a load, so there will be a terminal voltage that is represented by E2. So because of that there is a current which is I2 which will circulate or which will start flowing in the secondary side. Now this current I2, this will also create its own flux. Suppose phi2. Fine. The flux which is created by this I1 initially is phi, and since the circuit is closed, another flux will create by this current I2. Now the nature of this phi2 is opposite to this flux phi. So what is going to happen? This phi2 flux is going to oppose this current, this flux. So I can say the resultant flux in this core will be phi minus phi2. Okay. Initially there is only one flux phi. The moment you load this transformer, there will be another flux phi2. This flux will be in opposite to that. This flux will be in opposite to the previous flux. So the resultant flux which is going to flow or which is going to circulate through this core is going to decrease. So when this resultant flux is going to decrease, then what will happen? That means this E1, its magnitude is going to decrease. When this magnitude of E1 is going to decrease, then what will going to happen? The potential of this V1 is more. Okay, initially they were equal. E1 was equal to V1 was equal to E1 initially. Okay, after connecting this load, because of this flux, the resultant flux has reduced. Once the resultant flux has reduced, so this E1 will also get reduced, and since E1 has reduced, so V1 will be more than E1. So what will happen? This current will increase. Which current will increase? The primary side current. Why? Because this current has to nullify the effect of this flux, so that the transformer will work at a constant flux. Okay, for proper working of this transformer, we should have a constant flux in the machine. Your flux is going to decrease because of this loading of transformer, and somehow we have to reduce or nullify the effect of this increased flux. Because of this flux, our net flux has reduced. So that means I should have some additional current that will flow in opposite sense of this current. That means this initial current, which is only I0, now this is going to improve by some portion, that is I1 dash. Now what is going to happen? This I1 dash, the flux which is created by I1 dash, let's say phi1 dash, this will cancel out the flux which is produced by the I2 current. So this is how a constant flux will be maintained in the machine, okay, and it will work properly. Okay? So now what we will do, we will see the different cases. As you know that load can be a resistive, this side. If you discuss about this side, it can have a resistive nature, it can have an inductive nature, it can have a capacitive nature. That depends upon the load. So accordingly there will be a change in this secondary current, there will be different relation, okay, and according to that only this current is going to vary. The reason is we need to cancel the effect of this secondary current. So let us assume that we have an inductive load. On that basis only we will draw the phasor diagram. Yes, this is the complete phasor diagram when you have an inductive load. So if you have an inductive load, this part is same as how we have drawn for when the transformer is on low load. This is your supply voltage V1. This is the flux which is initially created in the machine. Now this voltage V2, this is your secondary terminal voltage, and since the load is inductive, so this is lagging by certain angle. Let's suppose that this phase angle, this angle is theta. Why? Because we are assuming that we have a load which is inductive in nature. Now what is going to happen? The voltage which is opposite to the primary voltage, that is self-induced EMF, that is E1, which is equal to your voltage which is induced on the secondary, that is E1 is equal to E2. Fine. Now since it is a practical transformer and there will be some resistance on the secondary side, inductance on the secondary side, and same is the case on the primary side. So from this terminal voltage a portion will be deducted for the ohmic losses, that is I2 into R2, and since we have inductance also, so it will be drawn at 90 degree to this. This part is I2 x2. Okay, so this is how your secondary side is completed. Now on this primary side, you see this is the initial current, and to nullify this current is added with an additional current, the part of current or the extra current that primary will take to nullify the flux. Okay, so when you take the resultant of these two, you will get the total primary current I1. Okay, now this is the current which will reflect on the primary side. Same is the case. If this is the current on the primary side, then the reverse is going to happen on the secondary side. So this is the complete phasor diagram. When you have an inductive load, and same thing I have mentioned. So initially this is the procedure how you can draw the phasor diagram. So phi is the flux, this you have considered here, this is your phase reference Then with respect to this E1 and E2, because it is always opposite in nature, the induced EMF, it always opposes the cause of producing it, E1 and E2. Okay, so it is drawn at 90 degree because of its inductive nature. Then the component of the applied voltage to the primary, which is equal and opposite to the induced EMF, that is V1. Fine. Now as I told you, like on the secondary side we have a resistance and inductance, same is the case on the primary side. So on the primary side again, this will be in the direction of I2. Okay, so for drawing this, there should be current, so this is drawn, it is an ohmic drop which should be in the direction of I2, so it is drawn like this. And inductive drop, that means 90 degree away from this, so it should be perpendicular to this line. Okay, same thing on the primary side also, this is your drop in the resistive part of the winding, and it should be in the direction of this current I1. I1 is the actual current, net current. Now from here you have to draw the for I1 X1, that is the inductive reactance of the primary side. So this completes your phasor diagram. Similarly, you can draw the phasor diagram when you have a capacitive load and as well as the resistive load. In the resistive case, what is going to happen? Both will be in the same direction. And when it is capacitive in nature, so this current will lead the voltage by a certain angle. So this part is going to shift in this direction. So I hope it is clear to everyone. So let us move further. This is the explanation. Now the next is the losses. So as we have discussed, like the basic difference between an ideal and the practical transformer is based on the losses which is going to occur only in the practical transformer. So this is the classification of losses in transformer. We have an iron or core losses, then copper losses, which is also termed as the ohmic losses, then we have a stray losses and dielectric losses. This iron or core losses, it is further bifurcate into hysteresis losses and eddy current losses. So these are basically the losses which is going to occur in the core itself. So especially the eddy current losses, these are also called as due to the surface currents. So to reduce the eddy current losses, generally the sheets are laminated. Okay. So iron losses, these are caused because of the fluxes in the core, and this is also called as the core losses, and this is further divided into hysteresis and eddy current losses. So this is specifically confined to the core. So while constructing a transformer, it is important to keep this losses as minimum as possible. So this is basically a design consideration, like what should be the material of the transformer core so that we can reduce this iron losses. Fine. Now here, based upon its magnetic property only, you can trace the hysteresis losses because that is a magnetic property of that core. Fine. Eddy current losses, because it is due to the circulating current which generates on the transformer core itself, and that is to be decreased by doing the lamination. So this is due to the losses which is due to the material property, and that you have to consider at the time of constructing. So when the flux links with the closed circuit, an EMF is induced in the circuit and the current flows, and this value of current, it depends upon the amount of EMF that is around the circuit and the resistance of the circuit. Fine. So this is important, like to reduce the eddy current losses, we need to minimize it by using the lamination. Second one is the copper and the ohmic losses. So as you have seen in the phasor diagram also, that there will be some resistive part on the primary side, there will be some resistive part on the secondary side. So the losses which is going to happen on the primary side, that is called as the copper loss, primary copper loss, and that is represented by I square R. So generally copper losses or the ohmic losses are represented by I square R. So accordingly, when it is going to happen on the primary side, then it is termed as I1 square R1, and when it is going to happen on the secondary side, then it is termed as I2 square R2. This is I2 square R2. Fine. And the nature of this losses, it varies depending upon the load. And why it is going to happen? Because there is a current parameter I1 and I2. I1 or I2, both are dependent on the load. If you increase the load, in the previous section also what we have seen, after loading the transformer we have seen the effect of I2. It has changed the flux distribution in the core. So that means that will fluctuate the I1 current as well. It has extracted more current to nullify the effect of I2. So both are a dependent parameter on load. Both are a dependent parameter on load. Then other than this, these two losses, copper losses as well as the core losses, these two losses are very important. Other than that, we have some stray losses also, and the purpose of stray losses or the occurrence of stray losses is due to the other magnetism or other type of material which is kept near to the transformer. So the occurrence of these losses is due to the presence of leakage field. Suppose you are working, you have a transformer, another some magnetic properties, magnetism or some other materials are kept near to it. So that is going to affect the stray losses or the total losses of this transformer. Other than that, the next one is your dielectric loss. So in the dielectric loss, basically it occurs in the insulating material of the transformer. That is in the oil of the transformer. So later we will study like for the cooling also, since losses will generate, so we should have some types of cooling arrangement also. So that is going to affect by the dielectric losses, and because that will count in the transformer oil of the transformer. Fine. So these are the losses which is going to occur in the transformer. So based on this only we can calculate the efficiency. Efficiency is another important parameter of transformer. Okay. So as you know that efficiency means output power to input power. So in case of transformer also, we should calculate the output power and then input power. So this is the formula to calculate the efficiency of a transformer, that is output to input power, and we can write input as an output power plus losses. Losses means basically we will consider only iron and copper losses. What we have studied the dielectric as well as stray losses. But during the efficiency calculation we will just consider these two important losses, that is the iron and copper losses. These are the terminologies which we have seen before also. Okay. And this is the final expression to get the efficiency of transformer. Now to get the maximum efficiency, you know that whenever you want to get the maximum condition for any particular parameter, you should take the differentiation and equate it to 0, so that the slope will be 0 at the maximum point. So same thing is going to happen here. The efficiency expression, this what we have derived here, it is going to you have to take the derivative of this expression to get the condition for maximum efficiency. So when you take the derivative of this, you will get the condition like its iron losses should be equal to the copper losses. Okay. So the value of the terminal voltage, it is approximately constant. So once it is loaded, your V2 is going to constant. Once you have loaded, your cos phi is going to constant. This is a load parameter. Then what is going to vary? Only the core and the copper losses. Okay. So this is the condition. This is the derivative of this. So what we have just derived it, we've taken the derivative of that expression with respect to I2, and since this is your iron losses and this side V2 is constant, so the transformer will give, here you can see the transformer will give the maximum efficiency when its copper losses is equal to the iron losses. So this is how you can calculate the efficiency of the transformer. So let us discuss about the equivalent circuit of a transformer. What we have seen in the previous slides, we have calculated the efficiency, we have calculated the losses, as well as we have seen how the transformer phasor diagram can be drawn based on the on load and no load conditions. So here this is the total practical equivalent circuit of a transformer, where this one is your supply voltage V1, R1 is your primary voltage, R1 is your primary resistance, X1 this is your primary inductance, and these are the parts that contribute for your magnetism. In the phasor diagram we have seen I1, Im and Iw. So this contribute your magnetism and this contributes for the losses. Then this is your E1, that is the primary and secondary. R2 and X2, these are your primary and secondary resistance and secondary inductance of the transformer. And V2 is the voltage, terminal voltage. V2 is the terminal voltage, and here we have connected a load. So this is the simplified equivalent circuit of a transformer. So actually what we can do, we can transfer these two parameters on the primary side. The purpose of doing so is to make the simplify the numerical method. That is our purpose. We want to simplify the method calculation. Okay. So these two parameters, it can be transferred on the primary side, as well as these two parameters can be transferred on the secondary side. So we have two types of equivalent circuit, and it is termed as the equivalent circuit when all the quantities are referred to the primary side. So there is an appropriate word. Okay. When all the parameters are transferred to the primary side, then that is termed as refer to the primary side, and when it is transferred to the secondary side, then we can say it is referred to the secondary side. You know that the transformation ratio is this one, E2 upon E1. This is your transformation ratio. Then you know that E1 is exactly equal to V1. What we have seen, E1 is exactly equal to V1, and this voltage, it causes a drop of I0, that is a no load current in the primary winding. So on this no load current, which is generally very small and it can be neglected, so I can write I1 is equal to I1 dash on this primary side. Here I can neglect this term, this part I can neglect, so I can get I1 is equal to I1 dash, and this is the no load current, and which is further divided into two components as you have seen here, and this is called as the working flux and this is called as the magnetizing flux. Fine. So from this phasor diagram you can see this is your total I0. This is your total primary current, that is a no load current, which is bifurcated on the magnetic current, and there is a working current. From here you can deduce these formula. What is IW? You can see this IW is I0 cos theta from here, and similarly what is IM? This is I0 sin theta. So what we want now, we want to derive an expression for the losses. We want to calculate the efficiency of the transformer. So for that purpose we are doing all these mathematical calculations. So what is the power factor? This cos phi, this is the power factor of the circuit. So from here you can get cos phi, that is this base to this hypotenuse. So this is IW to IM, I0, and the no load power input is V1 I0 cos phi naught. So these are the expression, relative expression from this phasor diagram. So you can get this phasor diagram only when you understand the no load phasor diagram of the transformer. Now the other two components of the load current, that is I2, which is the current on the secondary, and I1 dash, which is equivalent to I2, that will be I1 dash upon K, because K is the transformation ratio. So we can do the relation between these two. And from the previous diagram where we have seen that this I1 is equal to I0 plus I1 dash. So from here you can deduce this relation I2. Fine. And likewise you can determine the terminal voltage also. So this is the equivalent circuit of a transformer when the parameters are referred to the primary side. See, these are the parameters which is transferred on the primary side. In the initial slide, these were reflected on the secondary side. And what is R2 dash, what is R1 dash, R2 dash, sorry, X2 dash, these are the reflected values on the primary side or referred value on the primary side, and that you can calculate using these formula. This one and this one. Because we have got the relation with respect to the transformation ratio, that will remain constant. That is the number of turns on the secondary to primary, that is not going to change. Okay. So we need to calculate R2 dash and X2 dash. Now after getting these two values, we can have the complete resistive part, you can calculate the equivalent resistance of the circuit as well as equivalent inductance of the circuit. So this will become x1 plus x2 dash, just combine these two and these two. So this is how we can get the total equivalent circuit of the transformer when the parameters are reflected on the primary side. And same thing you can do on the secondary side. See how the quantities, this is R1 dash, R1 dash is the resistance which is going to reflect on the secondary side. Here this is R2 dash. What was R2? R2 was the resistance on the see R2 dash, it was a resistance, R2 only, it was the resistance on the secondary side. When it is reflected on the primary side, then it is indicated by R2 dash. Okay, same is the case here. When it is going to reflect on the secondary side, then it will become R1 dash. Fine. And this is the calculation. Like when you convert it, you need to multiply it by k square. You cannot transfer the same value of R1 from primary to secondary. It should be multiplied by k square. And this is the total resistance on the secondary side, and this is the total equivalent reactance on the secondary side. And this is the complete equivalent circuit when referred to the secondary side. R1, R2, sorry, this is on the primary side. And this is the complete equivalent circuit where we have reduced the R equivalent, X equivalent by deleting the magnetism branch, that like I naught and X naught, that one. The next heading is the voltage regulation. So what we want a transform of energy from primary to secondary without decrease in its power, without wasting any power. So in this voltage regulation, we should have a same value. Whatever is V1, I1, same I should get at the output as V2, I2. So regulation means basically this is the change in your terminal voltage. Okay. From the previous discussion, what we have seen, when you load the transformer, some loss, some power is going to happen in the transformer. There will be some extra fluxes that should be nullified by the extra current which is taken from the primary side. Okay, so this voltage, the terminal voltage, the no load voltage, that is going to decrease. Just a minute, sorry. So because of this voltage is going to decrease. So in percentage regulation, voltage regulation, basically we are going to calculate this change in the terminal voltage, no load terminal voltage from full load to no load. So this is how you can calculate the voltage regulation, that is the difference on the secondary terminal voltage from no load to full load to the no load. Okay, the secondary terminal voltage at no load, and this is the secondary terminal voltage at full load. So this is all about the voltage regulation. So what we want a transformer to have a maximum efficiency with a very low percentage regulation. If percentage regulation is less, that means the losses are less, that means your output voltage is same as your input voltage, that power is same. Okay, that's it for today, and we will continue further in the next lecture. Thanks.